I used to let him taste it, but he never hit it. I ain't want worms. Well, I said, what? Salima said, old men got worms. I ain't want worms. This is Bedtime Stories, Grown-Up Edition, Poetic Justice, Part 7. Baby, when we left off, Wise and Mrs. Ali had been questioned by the police in reference to Amira's disappearance, and Hanifa had got mollywopped by Salima and removed from the scene while unconscious. And Nadia, Stanley's mother, dropped the bomb. Her husband, Anon Charles, no relation, is not that boy's daddy. Emmanuel Manny Lopez is. When Manny asked Nadia why she'd never told him and how Stanley knew, she told him that she'd kept that from him because it was the best thing to do for all parties involved. And while it wasn't necessarily what she wanted, it was definitely what he needed. She said, you need to understand that when you and I met, I had no idea the life that you would inherit. I could have never predicted that you would be the man you are today. But my father saw it. Bella saw it. Marisol saw it. And if I had any doubt about whether I did the right thing, your sister's death confirmed that I did. Manny's sister, Selena, was the rightful heir to the Lopez throne. She also became the wife of Bella's brother Samuel. And shortly after she gave birth to Salima, her decision to be both the queenpin of the Lopez family and the wife of the kingpin of the Baptiste family resulted in her being unalived and her daughter being motherless, making Samuel a widower within the first 2 years of their marriage. Nadia said, while she was an active part of the life, and I wasn't, I'd had the experience of being a kingpin's daughter. I knew the extensive lengths that my father had to go to keep me safe. He'd had years of experience doing it. You had none. And whether I could trust you to do the same or not, marrying me to save my virtue and your reputation would have only served to put you, your organization, and me in danger. And in the end, that would have put our son in danger. I had to love you enough to let you go. And I had to choose to love my unborn baby enough to accept the love that Anon was freely giving. Neither I nor Marisol were being selfish, Manny. It cost us both something. To relieve her of the responsibility and the burden of keeping my secret, I went back and I lied to her. Whether she believed me or not is irrelevant. Manny asked, did you know about my diagnosis? Nadia said no. Had I known, I would have known how to get my son help. Manny was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. Nadia said it was clear when he was young that he wasn't emotionally like the other boys his age. And his emotional outbursts and imbalance only got worse when he found out that Anon wasn't his father. Too bad I didn't know that he'd found out. Manny asked, well, how did he find out and when did you find out? Nadia said, Anon has a genetic hormone condition that makes him infertile. It also affects his kidneys. He was hospitalized for that condition. At 14, when Stanley learned what the condition was, he did his own research. He realized that Anon could not be his father, but he didn't ask us anything about it. Several years later, we were moving. I took a memory box out of the attic and he asked me what it was. I told him, but I wouldn't let him see what was inside. He watched where I put it in the new house, but I didn't know. One day when he was home alone, he went through the box and found all of the letters that you'd written to me and sent to me through Bella. Those letters were dated. He knew when me and his father got married and when he was born, and put 2 and 2 together. Then he kept all of those facts in his back pocket right up until the day that he told us Idra would be coming to us to ask our permission for him to replace him in the family business. When we protested, he told us that we would agree or he would reveal my secret. Then he told me that he knew Anon was infertile, I'd had a relationship with you, and you were his father. I tried to deny it, but I was caught off guard, and he knew from my reaction that I wasn't telling him the truth. When Idra came to us, we had no choice but to agree. And when we did, he seemed so much better. And shortly thereafter, he fell in love, and we'd never seen him so happy. Manny said, so let me get this straight. He did all of this because he's in love with Zora? Nadia said, not exactly. His pursuit of Zora is more so about his childhood and Lorenzo. He's your firstborn son, Manny. He feels like Lorenzo's taking what should be his. Manny said, but Lorenzo's not even the heir to the Lopez throne. Nadia said, he knows that, but that's not what he's taking. He's taking your love and his place as your son. Zora choosing his brother, who he sees as his rival, just adds insult to injury. Then Angela said, unfortunately, it's more to it than even that. I talked with Zora after Stanley and Zoe's fight. Zora is not the person that Stanley's in love with. 2 weeks earlier, Zora was doing everything in her power to be there for her mother. But her baby brother's prognosis had her mind reeling. She couldn't even begin to imagine a world without her little brother. For as long as she could remember, he'd been her best friend, her protector, her listening ear, her voice of reason. And now he was fighting for his life. And every person at that hospital was struggling and battling with their own emotions. So she was so thankful that Lorenzo had decided to fly from Puerto Rico to Dallas with her. The only problem was he was clearly not equipped to deal with her emotions, and he was not providing her with the support that she needed. She was trying to be understanding of the fact that Lorenzo being on the spectrum meant that he just didn't really know how to empathize with the pain of others. But this was not a time for her to extend grace to him. She expected for him to push through all of that and show up for her. And he wasn't. Her mother had always said, you don't never really know a man until you're going through something and you need him. While there were so many things that she liked about the men that she was getting to know, she wasn't sure that she was going to be able to handle this part. She was a woman, but more importantly, she was a person with feelings, and life was going to throw curveballs that would elicit strong emotions. And she was the kind of person who required emotional support from the people who were in her life. Under the circumstances, neither her mother nor her sister could give her that support. And the truth of the matter was, if her brother died, the person who'd always been best at giving her that support would be gone. Her father had been in jail most of her life, so he'd never been a person who she could rely on for that. But today of all days was the day where he at least tried. And for that, she was thankful. He'd taken her on a walk, and when they got outside, she told him exactly how she felt. And he'd given her some of the best advice he'd ever given her in her life. He said, baby girl, you cannot expect gallon-sized love from someone who has a pint-sized capacity. People can only demonstrate their love within the constraints of their capacity. Yeah, you should have expectations. A man should respect you. He should treat you well. He should put your needs before his own. But you gotta let him show you what that looks like for him. And then you gotta decide whether what he has to offer is enough for you. But you can't go into it comparing him to other men. Not to me, not to your brother, and not to a vision that you have in your mind. I get that the men in your life haven't been the best example. I certainly haven't. But a man can't give you what he doesn't have. Making him feel bad about that won't get you it either. You either accept what he has to offer, or you move on. But you gotta be fair in your assessment. Because real talk, if it ain't this, it'll be something. And a man alive that could be everything you need. You'd have to put 3-4 niggas together to get everything on your little list. You might get everything that you want, but you're damn sure gonna get a whole lot that you don't. And they gonna have expectations too. And since you only one damn woman, you're not gonna be able to fulfill them all either. From what I can tell, he seemed like a good man. A little strange, but good. And if he's got your brother's vote, then he's got mine. But what we think can't matter more than what you think. So you're gonna have to decide what you can live with and what you can live without. When he said that he was going to head back in, Zora said that she needed a few minutes alone. Big Dro had no clue that leaving her alone was a terrible idea. When he re-entered the waiting room without Zora, Lorenzo said, where's Zora? Big Dro said, she needed a few minutes. Lorenzo said, you left her alone? Before Big Dro could answer, Lorenzo walked off. He'd seen Stanley duck out a few minutes earlier. Zora was in Puerto Rico because Big Wood was concerned that Stanley was a threat to his sister. He told Lorenzo to keep her away from Stanley. And Lorenzo had said that he would unalive Stanley before he let him hurt her. So he was one way about Zora. He may not have had the EQ necessary to provide her with the emotional support that she needed in that moment. But his hands worked. When he located Zora and Stanley on the side of the building near the memorial garden, he walked up just in time to see Stanley with his hands all over Zora, Zora pushing Stanley away, and hearing Stanley say, come on now, Zora. You need a shoulder to cry on, and I'm here. Lorenzo just standing around looking stupid. You need a hug and reassurance that everything gonna be all right. Let me do that for you. Look, you acting like we ain't known each other most of our lives. Everybody else is all wrapped up in their own pain. Nobody's thinking about you. I can only imagine how hard this is for you. I know how important your brother is in your life. He's been your protector since we was kids. And I know that he's been funding your lifestyle. You need somebody who can support you, protect you, finance you. And I want to do that for you, Zora. I'm not that little nerdy kid with the glasses and the pocket protector. I'm a grown man now. I've got a whole empire at my disposal. And I need a wife. You're not going to convince me that you really into Lorenzo. Come on now. That's a front. Zora said, a front? A front for what? Stanley said, come on now. You don't think I noticed growing up that your only real friend was a gay boy? You and your one homegirl was never seen with no boys? Every boy that ever came at you, you shot him down. When your brother paid for vacations, it's you and gay boy, that awfully manly looking girl you be rolling with. Zora said, so you think that I'm a... Oh, okay. Stanley said, I'm not judging you. I just figure a lavender marriage would be right up your alley. Zora said, and if that were the case, what would you get out of that, Stanley? Why would you even agree to something like that? Stanley said, you tell me your secret, and I'll tell you mine. Zora said, I don't have a secret to tell. But so that we never have to have this conversation again, let me make something clear to you. I'm not interested in you, Stanley. You saw me shoot guys down because the kind of men that I like aren't pushy. They don't think they're the catch. They don't treat women like they're doing them a favor by choosing them. I've never been desperate to be chosen. To be perfectly frank, I do the choosing. And I've chosen. I've chosen Lorenzo. I like him. As a matter of fact, I love him. I could see myself spending the rest of my life with him. We have a few things we need to iron out, but my sexuality is not one of them. My brother is fighting for his life, and you're proposing that I be your beard because you think I need you to be mine? Stanley said, I didn't say nothing about needing no damn beard. I ain't say I was gay. Zora said, you didn't have to. When we were kids, my brother and Q used to tease you about having a crush on me, about checking me out. But me and my little gay boy friend both peeped game. You was never checking me out. You was checking. And before she could finish, Stanley grabbed Zora by the arms and shook the ish out of her. And Zoe ran up and tried to knock that man's head off his shoulders. He caught Stanley by surprise and hit him so hard that he let Zora go. And then he commenced to putting belt to behind while yelling, if you ever put your hands on her again, that's your nigga. Stay the hell away from my girl. Then Stanley's right hand, who had hung back to give Stanley and Zora some privacy, ran up to either grab Lorenzo or hit Lorenzo, who knows. But before he could do a damn thing, Stacks came out of nowhere and hit him with a haymaker that laid him out cold. At the round table, Nadia signed. When they were children, Q, Wood, and Tough used to tease Stanley relentlessly about having a crush on Zora. It embarrassed and angered him more than I thought was normal. And no matter how much I tried to explain to him that his feelings for her were normal and them teasing him about them were also normal, he just could not handle it. So eventually I talked to the boys, and they were receptive. They stopped teasing him. But unfortunately, they really didn't have anything in common with him. So absent the teasing, they had nothing to say to him. And that made him feel left out. Angela said, I don't believe that his angry response was the result of him having a crush on Zora at all. When I talked to her, she told me that he proposed a lavender marriage and that he got pretty upset when she suggested that he wanted her to be his beard. He wanted her to confess to being a lesbian so that he could confess his own secret. Zora is not a lesbian. He certainly was not the first person to have assumed that. But according to Q, he was shocked when Stanley expressed interest in Zora because he never thought that Stanley was checking out Zora. He always believed that Stanley was checking out Zora's friend. And when he, Wood, and Tough stopped teasing Stanley, that gave him an opportunity to better observe Stanley's actions. All three of them had concluded that Stanley was gay. And they didn't stop talking to him because they didn't have anything else in common with him. They stopped talking to him because they were uncomfortable with that. When Pops Andy asked them why they didn't want to interact with Stanley, Q told him, and Pops Andy sat all of the boys down and explained to them that he would not tolerate homophobia, bigotry, or intolerance of any kind from any of them. He made them promise to never speak of their suspicions about Stanley's sexuality, to allow him to come out on his own, and to accept him if and when he did. That was one of the things that Q respected about his father. He was a Caribbean man telling his sons that another man's sexuality wasn't any of their business, unless, of course, that man was aggressively pursuing or trying to victimize them. Q and Wood were both suspicious of Stanley in this entire situation because his interest in Zora didn't appear to be authentic, and his presentation of it seemed dangerous. Nadia, it's important for you to know that your son's only experiences with women have been at a cost or by force. And that and his sexuality is what the traffickers used to get him to do their bidding. And everyone in the room was shocked. Meanwhile, at the safe house, Waz's head was spinning. When he walked in, his wife and Hanifa's father, Taryn Cato, the head of the Cato crime family out of Jamaica, by way of New York City, were engaged in a heated and sexually charged conversation. He heard Taryn say to Salima, in a thick patois accent, "It looks like marriage and pregnancy is treating you well. If it's possible, you finer now than you were when you used to sit on my face. I could smell the pheromones from that kitty cat from over here. So you know, I've never forgotten what you taste like." Wise said, "Nigga, what the hell you just said to my wife?" And Salima and Taryn both turned around, and Taryn said, "I don't mean no disrespect." Wise said, "You might not mean none, but nigga, that was disrespectful. Big gangster, let me holler at you for a minute." In another room of the safe house, Wise said, "What the hell did I just walk into?" Salima said, "Calm down. I'm just as flabbergasted as you are that he would let all that come out of his damn mouth." Wise said, "The hell with what he said. You don't think that you should have told me that you had a past with Hanifa's father when I told you who her peoples were?" Salima said, "I told you that she didn't want none of me, and neither did her family. I meant to come back and tell you everything that happened, but it slipped my mind." Wise said, "What else slipped your mind? Please tell me that he not one of the men that you got pregnant by." Salima said, "Ooh, that would just be downright diabolical." "No, babe. I used to let him taste it, but he never hit it. I ain't want worms." Wise said, "What?" Salima said, "Old men got worms. I ain't want worms. I just wanted to prove that I could get the job done, and I wanted a little sloppy too." Wise said, "Everything is not a game, big gangster. I don't want to be in a room with a man that you done been with." Salima said, "Well, if it helps, I slutted him out for the job." Wise said, "Say what?" Salima said, "His family back in Jamaica cut him off. He needed a new plug, and we needed new allies in New York. We also needed to prevent our competitors from gaining more ground. My job was to get in where I fit in, ingratiate myself to the old man, get information we could use, information that he needed, make sure that his family couldn't eat, and ensure that he needed us. In the end, I did all that. A long-standing relationship was brokered between the Catos and the Baptistes, and I got some bomb Caribbean head." Wise said, "You a wild woman, you know that, right?" Salima said, "Yeah, I know. But if I wasn't, this wouldn't have went down the way it did. Because of that previous experience, he was more than willing to let me put paws on his daughter and snatch her off the streets. He even flew all the way here with the hopes of laying eyes on me again and to do us this solid. He's going to make sure that his daughter goes home today, that she never contacts you again, and that if she has chance to speak with the authorities, she'll inform them that she no longer believes that her best friend is missing. And that's why she wasn't there to meet them outside of Big Wood's house today." Wise said, "A win is a win. But when we go back out there, you better make sure that nigga know he ain't never gonna get a taste of my snatch again."